How you doing, class? Welcome to Logic 103, and I'm speaking to you today on June 3rd, 2020, in the midst of probably the worst little period of American history that I can remember. I mean, when have you ever seen things this crazy, right? With a pandemic that's killed over 105,000 people since about early March. 105,000 people, that's as many people as were lost in the original blast at Hiroshima, the atomic bomb. And it's about double the amount of people that were killed in 10 years of combat in Vietnam from 1965 and 75. We, uh, we lost about 57,000 people, and already just in 3 months, we've had 105,000 people. So that itself is crazy. Walking around with a mask at Walmart and going to a bank with a mask on is just bizarre. It feels like some dystopian sci-fi movie, right? Just like The Walking Dead minus the zombies, but the zombies are the people that might infect you. So, I don't know what you guys are feeling. I think I've had 2 tanks of gas in my car since March, and you probably heard that little joke that people say. Yeah, I'm getting like a month to the gallon. So yeah, so anyway, let me introduce myself a little bit. I'm your philosophy professor for the summer. I've never taught a full online class, and that's weird, but I love seeing students. I mean, that's my energy, that's my passion. I'd much rather be seeing you at class, and maybe some of you like online learning, but I don't. But I'm here, and I'm going to try to make this entertaining for you and interesting for you. I think we talk about an interesting subject, right? Logic. And some of you just need the units, right? You need 3 units. You need a critical thinking class to move on in your educational career. So we need to talk about that. I'll probably do that in my introductory video when we open up the first week module. I'll give you an overview of what logic is. So let me hold off on that. Anyway, so Alejandro Orozco, I'm your philosophy professor. I'll just say a little bit more about me. In the middle of this pandemic and this middle of this police crisis shooting George Floyd, I was kind of telling you about how crazy this is right now. And it's not just the pandemic, right? It's this protests that have been going on for about 9 days. I've been on Zoom meetings with professors and administrators up and down the California coast, dealing with how do we address this for our students. So it's a crazy time. You guys are probably taking my class online because, I mean, that's the only way you can do it nowadays. Crazy time. It's a crazy time in my life personally because I was entering into, starting in the fall, my last full-time year of teaching. I've been teaching at Southwestern almost 30 years, which is kind of crazy because I don't feel that. It's like, what? Where did my life go? So here I am, and I was looking forward to seeing, wow, this will be my last summer class. It'll be my last summer class. It was supposed to be face-to-face, and then I was thinking, well, it's going to be my last fall class face-to-face, and then it was going to be my last spring class in 2021. And I was thinking, in May, that'll be it. I'll retire. I'll still teach because I feel I like it. But anyway, and so to come to this, to be reduced to an online presence, it's kind of sad for me. I'd much rather interact with you and sit outside class during the break and have a coffee with you and shoot the shit. I mean, that's what I like doing. That's what's always motivated me, and I'll miss you, seeing you face to face. We'll probably do a Zoom meeting once a week, but I'll talk about that more in the opening module when I kind of give an overview of the class. So let's hold off on that. You'll see that in each week module. There's 7 weeks of the class, so each week we'll have a module, and I'll probably have some video or some kind of type thing which gives you an overview of that week. I'll say, here's the introductory week, and it'll either be a video or something written that will kind of tell you, oh, this is what you need to accomplish during the week. So anyway, back to me, Alejandro Orozco. Been teaching at Southwestern. I've taught also at USD for a year. I taught at San Diego State in the Osher program. So I've been around. I've taught at City. I've taught at Grossmont. I've done individual classes here and there, and speaking engagements and lectures. So I've been around. I've had a career, but anyway, I'm happy to be with you. I'm from the Bay Area. Very proud of that. I'm from the Bay and born in Oakland, California. You'll probably hear that whenever I get talking about a certain subject, and I hear a little bit of that flavor come out. This Mexicano white-looking boy growing up in East Oakland. You'll kind of hear you'll hear that neighborhood in me, and so you'll hear that. I just want to disclose that, full disclosure. That I have things that created a worldview in me, and I can't deny that. I think that you all have been created by your environments, and so your family, your religion, your customs, your socioeconomic status, and that happened to me. I grew up in the Bay Area, um, and I was kind of like that first teenage class that was looking at it at their brothers and sisters who were like the class of '69 and '70. My sister was the class of '69 in the Bay Area, and she became kind of like this Mexicana from my mother and father. My father's from Mexico City, my mother's from Guanajuato, and their daughter kind of blew their expectations completely out of the water because they thought that they were raising this daughter who would stay in our household until she got married. But it was 1969. Berkeley was like 7 or 8 miles away from me. The UC campus was like the center of the free speech movement. Across the bridge from Oakland was San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury. I remember, a huge impact in my life. In our grammar school days, they took us on a tour to Berkeley to see the University of California, and we were on a bus, and we went up Telegraph Avenue. Any of you who have ever been up in Berkeley, you'll know that one of the main drives going into the campus is Telegraph, the Ave, they call it, the Ave. And we saw all these people like just kind of burnt out hippies selling, tie-dye t-shirts, all these people who were kind of traveling with backpacks, and our teachers were going ooh and ah and looking at that. And I was kind of like just a little grammar school kid just looking at this explosion of something that was beyond, kind of like it was just so abnormal to see all these people kind of buying and selling things on the street. It was like an open market, people camping on the street with dogs and backpacks, and hey, I need a ticket to Denver, and anybody got tickets for the Grateful Dead in San Francisco, next week. And it was like, what's going on? And so we took a tour of the campus in the late 1960s. I was a little boy, and so that was my worldview. I grew up in East Oakland. I grew up on 62nd Avenue. And I'll shut this down because it'll be too much me, 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 me. And I just want you to know a little bit about me, introductory video. Here it is. So anyway, I grew up on 62nd Avenue. It's kind of like almost right in the middle of Oakland. It's right in the heart of East Oakland. Back in the day, that neighborhood wasn't as rough as it's turned out to be now. I saw a program a couple of years ago. It was called Gang Wars, and they did one on Oakland, so I had to tune in and watch that. But 62nd Avenue is literally like one block away from Seminary Avenue, which is like the heart of what they call the killing zone. And that's what Oakland evolved into probably like in the 80s and 90s, when crack and that whole epidemic came into Oakland and stuff. But when we were growing up in Oakland, it was still a very black neighborhood. Mexicanos, pretty much an integrated neighborhood, but pretty much trending towards all black, and we were kind of like the last of the Mexicano families that were in that mix. And I grew up on 62nd. Black Panther headquarters got started on 73rd Avenue, and I walked by there several times because a friend of mine, his father had a liquor store on 73rd Avenue. It's called the Art Liquor, and anyway, so his father had a liquor store. We used to hang out at the liquor store and stuff. And not because we could drink, but his dad owned it. And so we'd go in the back and just hang out. And anyway, too much information. But Black Panther headquarters was on 73rd. And you'll see pictures of Huey Newton and Eldridge Cleaver and Bobby Seale, standing in front of these big wicker baskets. I'll populate this video with one of the that picture that's almost like a classic picture of the black movement in the late 1960s. That was like 11 blocks from where I grew up, right in the heart of East Oakland. So you've got Berkeley, 7 or 8 miles away, going through its cultural, countercultural explosion. Vietnam anti-war protests. They were giving out free food from the Black Panthers breakfast program. We would get cheese and, just basics, in a brown paper bag that had the Black Panther, fist thing on it. It was incredible to be growing up in that information, in that world, but I never knew it until I got older. And I said, damn, I was right in the middle of an incredible explosion mix. And by the time I was in high school, all the things that you guys take for granted now is the typical kind of like things that you have to avoid in high school. That was like our first generation of it. In other words, drugs, weed, premarital sex, all those kind of impacts that you all have to negotiate in your own way. That was like we were the first generation that was actually being exposed to all that new. Hey, this is now available for you 13, 14, 15-year-old college students. So, back in 5 years earlier when my sisters were going to high school, there wasn't weed available. By the time in the early 70s when I graduated in the later 70s when I graduated from high school, weed was everywhere, just like it is now. But we were that first high school generation to experience that. That wasn't true 2 and 3 years ago before I entered high school, because the hippie generation basically made that come down into us, who were the first high school generation looking up at these hippies, if that makes sense. I'm trying to situate things for you. And I was in that mix. Of course that has impacted my life. The anti-war movement against the Vietnam War impacted my life. Meeting Vietnam veterans coming back from Nam, that impacted my life. Seeing friends of mine get, kind of tore up on drugs and stuff like that when cocaine became available in the 80s. I went through the disco period. It was a trip. And then for 7 years of my life, I was a monk. I entered religious life in North Oakland, St. Albert's College, and was studying to be a priest, if you can imagine that. So I've been all over the place, and eventually met my wife and got married, moved down to the South Bay. And so I've kind of had 30 years of my life in the Bay and 30 years of my life down here in San Diego, which is my home now. I mean, I love San Diego, but I'm always going to be from Oakland. I'm always going to be from the Bay.